Recovery is the foundation for life cycle refrigerant management, as without safe refrigerant recovery, there cannot be reclamation or reuse. A-Gas Rapid Recovery is an on-site refrigerant recovery service that gives businesses an easy way to contain their used refrigerants.
Not a whole lot of companies do what we do. We handle some of the grunt work that they don't want to do, and we can do it 10 times as fast as they can. The recovery portion, the cylinder exchanges, and buying back used material that otherwise can't be used.
We play a big role with our contractors, whether that be HVAC, mechanical, or demolition contractors. Our whole purpose is to get on site and not only help them save money in the project, but offer an environmental solution.
We do not want any of these products getting vented to atmosphere, no matter how low the GWP is. Now it's not only the cylinder to recover the product, but it's making sure the technicians have equipment that are rated to work with flammable gases. That's really important for people.
So by us being able to contain it in cylinders, reclaim it, we're saving the environment one recovery at a time.
My name is Mike Idle. Today I wanted to give you an overview of Amatrol's T7300 HVAC control system. This system is designed to align a hands-on workstation, as you see here, along with interactive curriculum to teach the operation, installation, application, and troubleshooting of control systems related to the HVAC industry. As components and features of HVAC systems get smarter in both the residential and commercial fields, it's important for current and future HVAC technicians to be trained up what types of circuits are used. Familiarity, learning, operation, maintenance, troubleshooting are all important areas to cover in that.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us once again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. We just got back from the National HVACR Education Conference a few weeks ago, and at the conference, we had a variety of technical classes, but we also had a lot of professional building, like professional for ourselves, team building classes. We had professional growth, we had delivery, and Kristen was there doing a class that was so well received. I thought that we should make sure to get it, at least a piece of it on the show so that you can have an understanding what these type of classes are. So Kristen Mueller, we're grateful that you're hanging out with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again, Clifton. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We had a little bit of technical difficulty getting on today. We had a presentation where we're going to go through just as talking points, but Kristen is such a good speaker and motivator that it's not even necessary. We're like, let's just hit the go live button and we've got this. So we're going to run with that today. And I've actually got a short video that I want to put out of part of the intro of Kristen's class at the conference. And while we're doing that, everyone let us know where you're joining in from so we can see how large our community of HVACR professionals is. We're grateful that you're all taking time out of your busy day to hang out with us, and I'll see you in about a minute.
It's going to be a very interactive session. So I hope you came with bells on this morning and already had some coffee. I was working, he's not working. It's like, please don't. It's so interactive with me today. So we're going to make this fun and interactive. When you think about, or when somebody says HVAC, what do you think about? What are the words that come to your mind? Compressor. What else? Compressor. What? Make money. Make money. Equipment.
Sweat.
Sweat. It is hot in Vegas. What else?
Men.
Men. Okay.
Not like that.
Yeah. I'm sure I have a song for that. Because you give me too much time up here, I'll start singing again. Who knows what I got?
Okay, I gotta know about this singing, Kristen.
Well, see, the thing is, Clifton, I generally say if somebody gives me a microphone, I instantly turn into Britney Spears or I
Yep.
turn into Taylor Swift. I just can't stop
Ooh,
singing. And there are moments where I can be in a store and I will create a jingle for that store and they didn't even know they needed one. That's how that
that's
goes.
fantastic. We did lose your video feed, Kristen.
Oh,
I'm gonna call out some of our guests today. We got Kendrick joining us from Chicago. Kendrick, how's it going, man? I'd love to take some time to catch up with you sometime. I missed everybody at the conference this year. It was so busy. Garrett, thanks for joining us. Jeremy Moorhead joining us from Arkansas. Jeremy, have you been on here before? I don't recognize the name being in here. I'm glad that you're letting us know that you're here. And if you have any questions, any comments along the way, definitely let us know. Eric is joining us from Central California. Cool, Eric. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. Osvaldo down in Belize. I'm so grateful that you keep hanging out with us. We have a great time, just talking about our community. And it's wonderful to see people from abroad joining this community, learning to be better professionals, whether you're an educator, a technician, a contractor. Murph joining us today. Murph, glad that you're hanging out with us, sir. All right. Did we get you back, Kristen?
I can see you, Clifton, and I can see myself. So,
Interesting. Is there a flip camera maybe?
um,
Because it was on and then it just boop, went away.
crazy.
Now we're back. All
All
right.
right. I don't know how that happened. We didn't touch anything, but we're here.
It might have been when we went over to the video because it actually faded away when we went to the video. So it might have been a weird connection with the phone.
Fair enough. Here we go. Here we
So,
go.
Kristen, give us a little bit of your background so it can help us understand where your expertise comes from.
Sure. I've been at Johnson Controls for about 13 years now, all in the learning and development space. I have played in the sales space. I've played in the technical learning space, our customer learning space, and now where I sit is in the leadership development. So my role at JCI is to lead all of our leadership programs across the globe. So the topic today is something that I'm so passionate about because being a leader is ridiculously important, especially in this industry.
Yeah, when we go from the field to the classroom, and I say that because many of us as educators, we came from the field. We were good technicians. We found our way into the classroom, whether we wanted to or not. Most of us ended up there. We set our tools. I got my tool bag and I got all my goodies over here. And we get into the classroom and realize that those tools are only part of our job. And there's a new level of development that we don't always get exposed to by our peers. Hopefully we have a good peer that teaches this, but many of us are kind of thrown to the wolves and go, okay, like Howard likes to say all the time, glad you joined us. Here's your keys. See you at the Christmas party. Make sure everybody passes. Right? But in the world that we live in today, we're starting to have a larger group of interest of different people having interest in our industry than we had traditionally in the past, and I love it. We're becoming a very diverse culture within HVAC and refrigeration. In that, there's a development, an internal development that we need to do, because if we look at technicians, I always use Howard. Howard has such really good analogies. One of them he says is if we try recruiting people that look like us into the trade, there won't be anybody left but middle-aged white guys.
Yep.
Really. When we think about the diversity of technicians and students coming into the industry, it's an equal playing ground, but there's still challenges. I'm sure as a female, you talk about, some of the challenges there are within the industry, but as professionals, when we grow and we have good mentorship, it creates a community of compassion, I would even say.
Yeah, absolutely. We talk a lot about the fact that the industry as a whole is going to grow stronger when talent, and we say talent of all kinds. And I say in every classroom that I'm in that I don't care what your title is. I don't care if you have a team or whatever your role looks like. Everybody's a leader, no matter what. So it's the fact that the industry is going to grow much stronger when talent of all kinds is fully recognized and supported. We have to support one another, and like I said, recognize that as well, because we are in an industry that requires skill, it requires resilience, and it's problem solving under pressure. And that is those are skills that a lot of times you have to learn as you go. But to your point, you also have to have a mentor, somebody that's supporting you that can get you through some of that information too.
Yeah. I mean, some of the little things that I had to learn transitioning into, like how to build a spreadsheet, how to build a PowerPoint, and then came the biggest of all, like how do I lead?
Yeah.
I can have all the content in the world, but if I don't know how to deliver it, am I really doing a service for my students?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I just had a conversation. A friend of mine, her husband just went into the corporate world, and she said it was such a transition because, to your point, he had to learn Excel, he had to learn PowerPoint, some of these things that we take for granted. But we focus a lot on the skills that you can do with your hands, and less about how do I need to act differently? What do I need to do that's different now that I'm in this role, or perhaps just growing, because career advancement often isn't about working harder. And leadership in and of itself is not just a title. There's a lot that goes with that. You have to recognize potential in others. You have to develop your own confidence. And we spoke a lot when I was in Vegas about opening doors for people. And then when you open that door, you can also walk through, but gosh darn it, hold it for the person that's behind you as well.
That's really intriguing. I wish I would have been able to sit in on that class because you've already made me rethink about something that is almost kind of a norm or a stigma in our industry. As technicians, we advance to higher pay by working harder, working more, learning new pieces of equipment, learning new technologies. In the classroom, it could be more about learning to become a better leader.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we think about being a better leader, or just being a leader in general. It's not, often people think it's a distraction from excellence, or it's just one more thing that I have to do because I'm really good at my job right here. But
Right.
being really good at your job right here isn't going to get you to the next spot. And if it does, good for you, but it's not going to get you one step further from that. You constantly have to evolve and grow. And growing, if you're uncomfortable, that means you're growing. And that's a beautiful thing.
One of my mentors becoming an educator, he's still an educator and he loves where he's at. He doesn't want to progress into any type of leadership. And we'd had this conversation one time. I was like, so Greg Millsaps, Coach Millsaps, if you're out there, this one's for you. So Greg Millsaps is with the Johnstone Grimmy Group over in Ohio, and he's a high school football coach. And I would say one of his greatest assets is being able to coach people. And then the technical side is like a minor. Like his major would be coaching and mentoring people, and his minor is HVAC. And I have always had so much respect for him because every single student in his classroom was just like a student on the field. Like they left his classrooms. I left his classrooms feeling like I was ready to go do something myself. And it wasn't necessarily that I was learning new technical skills. I think back and it's very much about those leadership skills that motivated me to do more.
Yeah. And it motivated for you to do more. And it's not always something that you have to wait to be handed.
Right.
You have to practice it all the time. So again, I've said a quote multiple times, but whether you're building your own path or you're helping other people rise and pave their own path, that's leadership. And that starts long before you're in a promotion or you're in a new role. You have to start paving that way. And again, it's not something that you're just, yeah, I'm just going to sit here and wait for it to come to me. I have to build those skills and practice those skills along the way as well.
Yeah. It really makes you rethink a career in education because we have to be open to that next layer of development.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only your own development, because to your point, you might be in your stay promotion. Like I'm here, I'm good. This is
Right.
my last role that I want to be in. But as an educator, you're still building other people's careers. That's your role. So, we think sometimes this is a class, I'm doing a class for 5 days, I'm in and out, but people come back and they look at how you act and how you behave and some of the tidbits that you're leaving with them. You started this call, Clifton, with, hey, I remember so and so said this, right? So we take those tidbits, and that in and of itself that's leadership right there.
So if I'm an educator and maybe I feel like I've hit that plateau,
Mm-hmm.
because I can relate to this very much to playing guitar. I've played guitar for many years. Um, every once in a while, I'll get to a plateau, and it's because I'm continuing to do the same things a certain way without making a change, sometimes just a change in my own perspective. Very similar when we're talking about being a professional educator. We all hit those plateaus. I've
Mm-hmm.
had these conversations with other educators. They go, I don't know if there's anywhere for me to go. I'm just kind of here. And I'm like, there's a lot of places to go, but where do we begin and how do
Yeah.
we respond?
Yeah. We talk a lot about what those barriers are
Mhm.
and career advancement barriers, and that's exactly where you're going. And sometimes the first thing I think about is a visibility gap. Nobody knows that you're there. So how do we and how the excellent work that you're doing is not going to be seen by everybody. And
Right.
it's simply isn't seen by the decision makers that can help you get to that next spot. You could be out there as an educator solving problems, you're supporting teams, you're delivering results, but you may not always be in the room with the individuals that are making those decisions or helping you get to that next spot. So you always have to think about, how can I expose myself to some of these things. We think about the 70-20-10 model that we all talk about, and education is only 10% of that 100% that gets you to the next spot, and 30% of it is simply exposure. So
Mm.
understand, like, am I sitting in a visibility gap right now? And if I am, how can I get out of it? So how can I be seen by the folks that I need to be seen by? And if leadership doesn't see your impact, they can't factor it into an opportunity that might be out there for you.
Can any of you with us today or anyone joining us later relate to this? Because I can, and I've had this conversation with many of educators that feel like they're not being seen within their own department, within their own school. If any of you are in that position, especially right now, let us know in the chat. Let us help walk you through some of the next steps to be able to progress your career, because I believe we have all the resources right here in front of us.
Yeah. And I would add to that too, Clifton, that this right here is an informal network.
Yeah,
And too often we're not using our informal networks
I
to
agree.
help us to the next spot.
Yep.
We tend to like live in this formal process, and who's my relationships inside my own circle, but who else is out there? And some of us just naturally have more access than others, but advancement doesn't just depend on who you know, but it's who you know and then who they know and what they know that can help to get you to the next spot as well.
Going along with that, sometimes it's not even the recognition within the program that is our hindrance. Sometimes it's the recognition within the industry, especially when we're looking for ways to improve our program. One of the other examples that Howard presents all the time, and it makes me think about this very type of growth, is he had encountered two schools at the same time that had approached him with the question of, how do I make my program better? How do I get the manufacturers to work with me? And what he had offered was advice that was more on leadership and gathering content and picking up a new tool than it was anything. What he had recommended was for them to do an analysis of their program, learn how to work with spreadsheets, learn how to present themselves better in writing, so that they would be more appealing to the manufacturers to help build their program. One program got a pencil, one program got a few $100,000 worth of equipment, and continued education that was professional development. And so there's a lot out here when we know where to begin and when we understand like where we are, like situational awareness.
Yep, absolutely. And what you're talking about too is the opportunity to have to prove it again, the prove it again cycle that happens, especially for high performers out there, that you feel like you have to constantly reestablish your competence because past success doesn't always carry forward in the same exact way. It's going to look a little bit different. So folks that especially where you're going is the fact that I feel like I'm great at my job, right? I feel like I'm competent, I'm a great educator, but I have to prove it over and over again. And that can honestly slow advancement. It can create some burnout. And like I said, even for high performers that are out there listening, it becomes such a barrier to your success and advancement because you just feel stuck. And then it goes back to how can I use my informal networks and how can I use exposure to get myself out of that rut that I get in.
Garrett, I'm so glad that you are chiming in on this because you represent that program. I have seen your program grow. Garrett is actually right here in Indiana with an expanding HVAC program that means a lot to the community. But we also recognize exactly what you're saying, that in that 5-year plan, our program is not always at the front of the conversation. But how do we do that? How do we place ourselves in the front of that conversation? Because there's a reason that they're not seeing us. Maybe we need to be seen a little bit more.
Absolutely. Put yourself out there.
Mhm.
The best ways to do that is to find that exposure. And I said it earlier, you can't wait for these things to happen to you. You have to go find those opportunities. So if we believe the school thinks highly of us, then what are we going to do about it in order to be seen more? And even internally at my company, it's a fact of I think we're doing great work, but others may not value that as much. So it's on me to prove that value. And again, I'm not going to just wait for the email to say, "Oh, great job, Kristen.
Good job.
You have to go out there and you have to create your own story. It's not going to write the book for you."
No, Osvaldo, that's such a great comment. I'm really big on analytics. When we can start showing numbers, that's another tool that I had to pick up. I did not understand analytics.
Yeah.
That was something that I had to pick up as a tool in my new career. And then I was able to start justifying things. When
Mhm.
I could start showing what my program is actually doing by the things that I have been adding to the program, it really does give us a lot of weight when we're presenting some of these new items to our administration.
Yeah, absolutely. Is so we think about the barriers, but then we also think about what can advance us to the next level. And spot on. It's business acumen, top of the freaking list, right? Because what got you here isn't going to get you to the next step, and we have to move with the times. So we may feel like we are business savvy and analytics fits right in there. What does the business need from me in order for me to help push this forward? And you have to put in the work. You have to start connecting the technical work to the business outcomes. So if I do X or I teach this class, what is the outcome? What is that going to look like? And translate that into dollars, because what's going to happen then is your value is going to be much clearer at the higher levels. They're not thinking about, oh, you taught 50 people in the last 3 weeks or what have you. It's going to be, what does this do in dollars? That's the way that the business needs to look at it as well.
Yeah, we never really take the time to sit and think about our department as a component of the business, but it is. We are all a component of the business. This show is a component of our business. Our sponsors are components of my piece of the business, my department. And we really have to step out of our comfort zones. I get questioned very often, like, how do I do this? Like, how do I put myself out in front of everyone and not be constantly worried about the consequences. And I have to reply, I am always concerned about the consequences. But it's part of the reward. It's part of the investment. My wife hates it. She's like, oh, all right, do you ever get tired of just being out there in front of people? I'm like, no, that's how I get things done. I
Yeah.
have to be out in front of people, and I'm trying to give good information to other people, and I'm trying to connect the right people with other good people. And in
Hmm.
that, there's a lot of prosperity, but it's uncomfortable. All growth is uncomfortable, but when we start building ourselves, it can be a challenge.
Yeah. You mix that confidence with communication and influence. That's where you need to go. And that's kind of where you're leading is you have to be able to explain your thinking, advocate for yourself, your programs, your ideas. And that ultimately starts to create influence for outcomes. So we see in there, the school may not value, or the school values it, but others may not. Use your influence, and that will help to create some outcomes for yourselves. It goes beyond those who make complexity understandable. They start to bring others along with them. And I say confidence all day. To have to do this every day as an educator, you have to have confidence, but also have confidence in your decision making. We're all trusted to make decisions, but we have imperfect information often. So we have to know that we don't have to know everything.
Nope.
That's not what it's about. But it means that you're being willing to take the responsibility for whatever decisions you make. Somebody said to me yesterday, socialize the win, monopolize the loss. And that's the confidence that you need to have is I'm going to go out there and I'm going to really work for my programs, and I'm going to work for these other educators and my students.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share the win with everybody, but I'm gonna take it if I have a loss.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I was fortunate to be able to co-present a class this year at the conference for educators on how to use video to
Mm.
represent their brand, their classroom, their program. And I've already seen some schools starting to produce content, and I'm so proud of them because people pay attention to what your program actually does. And it doesn't take high-end equipment. Prime example, we had some technical difficulties earlier. Kristen is on her phone right now, everyone, right? Not a computer with a high-end camera and microphones, her phone doing an amazing presentation. And so the tools that we have at our disposal are not always utilized. And that's all we're really trying to do is trying to help you learn some new tools.
Hmm. Yeah. I Before we talk about something else, Clifton, I want to
Mhm.
talk about the fact, like, what we're doing here and using strategic relationships and thinking about who are your mentors. But beyond that, because we talk about mentorship all the time in this industry, who are your sponsors?
Right.
Because sponsors are a huge piece of it, but we often only think about the mentors. The difference between the two is
Mm.
that whoever my sponsor is, they're gonna advocate for me when I'm not in the room. Many of us, myself included, started careers and worked through careers with just a mentor. And then you have to flip the switch. So, we're talking about what does it mean to advance and how are we going to advance the others around us? Do you have a sponsor? And are you using those strategic relationships to help you get to the next level? Maybe not even you, but your program and what you're offering to the public is huge. You have to use those relationships.
Okay, I don't know that I've ever been confronted with that. So how would you explain us the difference between a sponsor and a mentor?
Yeah, so when I think about sponsorship versus mentorship, mentors are valuable. Everybody should have a mentor. They give
Mhm.
advice, they share their experiences, they help you grow. But sponsors, like I said, do something much different. They actively are going to use their influence to put your name forward for opportunities. They're going to actively use it to help you accelerate. And oftentimes, like I said, some people have both, but we've focused so hard on mentorship That's the buzzword, it feels like, but we also have to go the other end and think about who's actively advocating for me.
So as an educator, we really are that potential sponsor for those students that we're investing into.
Hmm. Absolutely. And that's a huge piece of it, is you are a sponsor, but who's sponsoring you?
Exactly.
Hmm.
Do you have any advice on who we would actually look at around us
I
for
would.
that type of a role?
I have used folks that come in and out of my classroom as
Mhm.
sponsors because they have a different circle than I do.
Right.
And if they have a great experience in my classroom and I've seen them grow because I've tracked their progress and
Yeah.
I see, I use them as my number one sponsor. They can speak firsthand, what they're getting when they come into the classroom.
I think, Todd, you're right. Instructors as well could be a sponsor and a mentor if they are helping build us and they are also representing for us. You bet. Now, I really wonder, we spend a lot of time talking about program advisory committees and the contractors that we work with and the organizations that we work with. And it really makes me think, why wouldn't we want to work with a student who has went out into the field, been successful, working with a local contractor to become part of our PAC meeting as just that, as a
Mhm.
sponsor of our program, representing our program for the industry as well as our administration.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to have influence. And again,
Yeah.
they have knowledge because, and you talk about all of these things, career growth and just leading the way, as we're calling it. It's not just about performance. Yeah,
No.
everybody on the call, I'm sure, is an amazing educator. That's why you are all here using your informal network. But performance is only going to get you noticed. It's certainly, you have to add those other pieces with the perception that people have of you, your presence. Are you here? Are you participating? And again, your relationships. All of those things are huge, but performance will get you noticed. Perception influences how you're evaluated. Presence determines whether or not you're included in those conversations. And relationships help to shape the opportunity that you're looking for. So it might be another educator role, and that's amazing. But if we're looking for something else, you have to use those to shape your opportunities in the future.
Would you consider maybe another well-respected educator from another department as a sponsor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would use another educator. I would use even another educator from a different institute
Yeah.
that my sponsor, because that's my informal network. They're going to help me grow. And those folks are going to, also they could act as a mentor relationship and tell me what I need to do differently in order for them to sponsor me in the future. But yeah, absolutely. The best of the best.
Okay, yeah, that does make sense because I've had that as advice, talking to different people. I didn't spend a lot of time in the formal school atmosphere. Most of mine was in distributor training, contractor, dealer onboarding, equipment training, not in the formal social realm of our secondary, post-secondary programs. I have had very successful instructors from very successful programs recommend to other schools and other educators to invite instructors from other programs to your PAC meeting
Hmm.
for that, because it helps bring awareness to your program to other professionals within your realm and can potentially build a sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
They can
Makes
give you.
sense now.
And we started by saying you open the door and then
Yeah.
hold the door open. You're doing the same thing and creating those partnerships and relationships. But yeah, absolutely. Bring them in. You're not going to break anything, right? Bring them
No.
in and help each other out.
Yeah, because I went to one. Actually, it's Garrett. His I went to Lafayette, and the HVAC and so it was really close. Electrical down the hallway, and they ended up sharing a few courses. which I thought was really intriguing. So they were helping build each other's department by finding courses that were mutually beneficial and could overlap via curriculum. And they actually did. They started sharing course content between different programs. And I thought that was an ingenious way of bringing additional recognition to your own program.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're behind the scenes making talent visible
Yeah.
to others who may not be seeing it. Because what are the chances that those departments are going to intermingle if they don't start doing some of these things? And you're missing out on some huge talent that could be out there for everyone to take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, Garrett, we have really struck a good chord with you, haven't we? Well, I know, Garrett, you spent a lot of time in that professional development. Garrett actually has a military background, so he has a lot of leadership training along the way, and still is very active in leadership outside of the school. But that's interesting that you've even been paying attention to other programs like the astronomy programs within your own school. Right now, you are being a sponsor of the astronomy program of your own school.
Mhm. Yeah,
Exactly
good
what we're
job.
talking about. Baby steps for everyone. I mean,
Yeah.
it might feel like or sound like a small thing, but in the grand scheme, it's a very important part of that developmental path.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, another good call, Todd. Very important to be able to exchange, being a part of other people's program advisory committees.
Hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of times where we start to fall short is we ask for feedback. And
Yeah,
as educators, we're, that's our job. We have to ask for feedback, and sometimes we're not ready to hear it, and that's
right.
okay. And I sometimes when I give feedback, I say, "Are you ready to hear this?" And, no, not yet. Call me tomorrow. I'll call you tomorrow when you feel like you're ready. But a lot of us
Yep.
just stop right there. We
Right.
stop for the feedback. The second step of that, as we've been talking, is you have to ask for that visibility. So whether that's joining somebody else's meeting or that's doing some cross-functional work, that's the visibility that folks really need in order to get to the next step. So that's number one.
I was at a school visiting in Texas. It's been a year or so ago. And when I was talking to the program, I was just doing interviews, doing some videos, and talking to the administrator. And she wanted to go show me the school's HVAC equipment. I thought, oh, this is interesting. She said, yeah, we actually teach our students on our campus's HVAC equipment, and the campus calls us first when they have problems before we call the contractor. And I thought, man, that is an intriguing way to build that perspective of your department. But here's another example why I didn't think of it, but they're building that sponsorship of the rest of the school, their faith in their program by participating. And that's stepping out of the comfort zone. That's putting yourself in a place where you're really looked at from everyone in the school. But at the same time, the reward is you're looked at by everyone in the school.
Hmm. Yeah. And it goes to the sentence I said earlier, you're going to celebrate and socialize those successes. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you're going to monopolize it if it doesn't work. Because let me put myself out there. I'm asking for visibility. I'm going to get it, but I have to be prepared for what's coming next as well. And part of that is just don't be afraid to claim those aspirations and
Mhm.
say it out. So if that individual wants their program to grow and have that visibility, well, my aspiration is my department's going to take care of all of the maintenance in this building. That's my aspiration. She says it out loud, and all of a sudden it's going to come true. We can't be afraid to say it. That's the point there.
Yeah. And that's a learned skill for many of us coming out of the field. When we were in the field, we typically had one-on-one conversation. Like we talked to the person who was having the problem,
Yep.
and we weren't in the conversation to represent our company, yes, but we weren't there to get to know the person, to learn about the entire environment that we were working on. And so sometimes we get a little blinded when we come into the classroom. Many young educators, when they come into the classroom, they're afraid to talk to other groups within the school because They just haven't been exposed to that in the past. But that's the only way that we grow, is we start doing that. We start communicating with other departments. We start putting ourselves out in front of those uncomfortable places.
Yeah. It's building your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
but also building them very intentionally. You have to know and understand, what do I want from this relationship?
Right.
It's asking others about their work, asking them what their challenges are. So if you're talking to other departments, what are your challenges? Because chances are their challenges are close to yours. So how can we work together to solve
Yeah.
some of these? And also understanding how decisions get made. So if I'm worrying about my program and what's working, what's not, how are people making decisions on how to grow these departments? I need to know that information in order to take that next step.
Mm-hmm.
Also connected to those that influence the opportunities. You know, if you know of somebody in another department that has great influence, I'm gonna stay close to that person so that I
Sure.
get in the room, get in the know. But to your point, we love to stay in our bubble because our bubble is safe and it's comfortable. But if you're not comfortable, if you're comfortable, you're not growing. We want to be uncomfortable. Get the ick a little bit sometimes so that you can grow. It's not going to be awesome all the time, but you're going to feel better in the end.
Yeah. Osvaldo, I'm so glad to see you growing. You know, Osvaldo's been joining us for quite some time now. And I think when he first found the show, he's like, this is not a whole bunch of technical, but it is a lot of growth. And that's a very mature statement that you're saying, because it is the truth. Because there's a lot of things in our industry that is uncomfortable to talk about. Even the equipment that we are expected to teach on, many times it's an uncomfortable conversation at first, just because we've never been exposed to it. But once we look for the right resources to understand the equipment, go to the manufacturer, find the resources that we need to get comfortable with that equipment, then we're good working on that equipment. Well, people are kind of the same way. We just need to be able to be open to that growth, but we need resources.
Yeah.
Like this whole conversation.
Yeah. You need resources, and also don't be afraid of a stretch, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we look at something and say, somebody will bring you an opportunity. You're like, I don't know. I can't do that. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
I don't feel
We'll hear that all the time.
Yeah, and we call these stretch assignments, or we call them different things, and they're meant to make you uncomfortable, to help you grow. So, my advice as well would be, say yes. Say yes. I tell this story all the time, that the role I'm in right now is not the role that I wanted. I was comfy where I was at. I loved my job, and one Friday she called me and she said, "There's a job offer in your inbox in about 30 seconds." And I said, "Well, that's crazy. I said no." And she said, "But get uncomfortable. Be comfortable with the uncomfortable, because we want to see you grow." So it's saying yes to those opportunities, which is huge.
I think we're going to have to start having more of these conversations. This community is very intrigued with this. Eric, and I don't even know that, Eric, have you been on the show before? Because I don't remember seeing your name. I'm so glad to have you here with us. Yeah, and that's an interesting perspective, isn't it? That we can be, if we're comfortable, we're probably in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because to his point, you want to be the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Your job is to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, because that's how you're going to grow. If you're the smartest person, you're comfortable, you're not growing. And then it should be time to look for another opportunity.
I agree. So remember, everyone, the answer is yes. Just say yes.
Say yes.
That's the answer. No matter how uncomfortable it is, if it's someone that you have respect for and they're giving you an opportunity or asking you of a project or a task, take it on. At least give it a try.
Yeah, give it a try and socialize that. And it's okay to make mistakes. We always say it's okay to fail too, because failure is the first attempt in learning. I tried it, didn't work. Okay, let's go back to the drawing board. And that's when you start taking very visible strategic risks. And that's how we become true leaders. And again, it's not based on title or promotion. It's based on how you're behaving. And as educators, you are a leader in the classroom. People look to you to have that skill and that ability. So take those strategic risks.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you're joining us today, Eric. We have a community, an international community. Not everyone can make it every week. We have a variety of people that come and go depending on the topic, and that has a lot to do with the topics that we have. We cover everything from technical into the emotional and interpersonal growth, like today. And it's a little stretch for me. I mean, it can be uncomfortable to be able to talk about emotional growth. That's really what we're doing, right? We're growing emotionally. Yes, you are, Garrett. Thank you. And it takes help. It takes people who have the experience, who have the knowledge, and are willing to share that. And Kristen, I'm so grateful that you're joining us and sharing this, because this is what has become a passion and a profession for
Mhm.
you.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And not comfortable. There are many times where it's not comfortable. You're going to get feedback that you may not like, or you have to build a relationship that might feel a little sticky at
Yeah.
first, but it proves to be worth the juice is worth the squeeze at the end for sure. And again, goes back to communication, influence, and put yourself out there. Don't be afraid. Build those sponsorships, build those mentorships, and give it a go. Like, just say, I just need to practice this on you, or let me try this and have this conversation and go for it. Because a lot of times, to your point, as educators, we came from a different role and now we're stepping into this one, and it can be a huge shift for a lot of folks. So it's just getting comfortable with who you are. And also, you are at that front of the room for a reason. You know something that folks in there don't, and that is your opportunity to build your leadership skills and really advance at what you're doing.
That's what I love about our conference. When I went there for the first time in 2019 as a new educator, I was scared to death. I did not really know how to communicate with a variety of different personalities and ethnicities. It was a bit of a challenge for me to learn. And what I found was, by going to the ESCO National HVACR Education Conferences, I learned how to talk. I learned how to communicate with people more, and how to approach people that I previously thought were unapproachable.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's part of
Well,
it, getting out of that comfort.
yeah, because a lot of it too, and I said, as educators, we came from a different role, and chances are you were a high performer in that role, which is
Yep.
why you are now an educator, because you were at that high performer role. But we talk a lot about, there are things that high performers do that you have to completely change your mindset as you become and step into more of a leadership educator role. And one of those is you have to be the expert. So I'm sure you went to that conference and you felt, I was an expert in my old role. I felt good. But stepping into this as an educator, I might no longer be the expert.
Nope.
I know these certain things, but I still am growing in other pieces. So you have to change your mindset from being the expert to, I have to think a little bit differently and think systematically, because that changes how I act. And high performers also try to avoid mistakes, but I'm sure every single one of us on this call today, we make mistakes every day in the classroom. And it's that's okay. It's okay. You have to take the step and own it and learn from the mistake as well.
Yeah, getting electrocuted was humbling the first time. After a few times, it becomes a little bit more comfortable. It's kind of like teaching.
I wouldn't go that I wouldn't go that far. But we also think about our high performers, and in your old role, you
Yeah.
probably, you know, you had a I'm gonna do it myself mindset.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
I need to do this task and I got this. And how many people do you rely on every single day to do work? Probably more than just yourself, right? That all of us are relying on others. So it's changing that mindset too, from I can do it myself to I need to enable others to help me along the way.
I feel like I'm sitting in the hot seat right now. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, yeah, Garrett, you're right. That experience has just been invaluable, and it helps us all grow. And Todd, that was a fun mistake. Todd was actually playing around here in Restream the other day, and he was practicing. learning to communicate with a different platform. Speaking like this on video live is a learned experience. Todd is actually in that development point now. He's been on a lot of podcasts and shows. He's been on this show. Well, he was actually learning to become better at it himself, and sends me a message. I just hit the live button. I'm out there. Yeah, there you are. Some things can be taken back, but as long as we confront them and grow from them, just like you did, that's how we become better. And it's a change of mindset for many of us. Overachievers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, sometimes overachievers, perfectionists, all the things. It's hard to ask for help because I'm a high performer. I can do it myself. I don't make mistakes. I'm all these things. And it's really taking that gut check minute to say, I need help. I need you to help me and enable others to open the door. And too often people say, well, nobody's here to help me. Well, gosh darn it, did you open the door for them to help you?
Right.
Make it okay for them to help you, because you might be putting up this wall and these blockers that say she's good, she's going to do it herself, and then everybody kind of stands back to watch. So it's building those relationships and make it okay for them to give you advice and be that mentor and or sponsor.
A really good point that goes right along with that, Osvaldo, and it really, for me, it's kind of the struggle. When we are trying to approach someone, say we're trying to approach another teacher from another department, we're hoping to gain their trust. Instinctively, what do we like to do? Tell them how good we are. Tell them what we're successful at. Tell them what our program has been doing, instead of listening to how they became successful themselves.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
challenge for some of us.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, and because we're so used to talking and putting ourselves out there, and as you said, we typically start with our resume, and why are we so good at what we do? But tell me what you want to know, and let me just be a listener, or tell me what your issue is. And again, that can go a long way. And we keep talking and bringing up relationships and how important they are to help you in your career, but you're never going to be able to build those if you can't always listen. You can't
Right.
always be, or you have to listen as well. It's a great point.
Yeah. My name is Clifton. You've got a very successful program. Do you have any tips for me?
Yeah, just stop.
Sit back and listen.
Yeah,
Take notes.
I'm not the smartest person in the room, and darn it, it's okay to be humble too. Just take a moment and listen. It's fine.
All right. So, Kristen, tell us more about your involvement in the industry, because you do so much for the industry, and we'd love to learn a little bit more about where people can find you in classes and organizations and trainings that you are involved with.
Yeah, love it. So again, my passion is leadership. It has become a learned passion for sure,
Mhm.
because as I mentioned earlier, I had to get a little bit uncomfortable with what I was doing. I often said I don't drink the Kool-Aid, but now I'm serving the Kool-Aid, and that's okay because I'm bought in and I'm here for it. So I am the vice president of Women in HVACR, and it's a great organization that I am again very passionate about, because the industry is going to continue to move forward when more voices rise with us. So it's up to us to help to build that industry. So big in women in HVAC and big on leadership. Those are my 2 points.
Okay. Well, we sure appreciate you joining us today. It's a fantastic conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it and soaked up a lot along the way. I hope everyone that is joining us has softened your senses just a little bit.
I hope so.
And yeah, I mean, because that's what it takes when we get to this point in our career, when we feel like we've hit that plateau, when we feel like our department is not being recognized as well as they could, or our efforts are not being recognized as well as they could. We really just need to learn how to present them to the listeners that we're trying to attract. And in doing that, we're probably going to have to learn some new skills. We're probably going to have to learn how to listen and communicate with people who might not speak the same technical language that we do. And it's okay.
Mhm.
It's
It
all
is.
right.
Yep, it is okay. Take it down a notch, listen, and leave the jargon at the door so that we can help one another grow. It's going to be amazing. So again, if you want more, look me up on LinkedIn. I'd be happy to spew some more information.
And everyone out there right now should say, yes, we will do that.
Just
Go find Kristen Mueller. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to any conversations that we have. I enjoy what you're doing, and I respect so much what you're doing for the industry as a whole. And we'll see you on the next episode of Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks.
Bye.